Right here we have a gate swung out in the middle of the road and somebody dumped a bunch of tires. Someone's gonna whack that in the middle of the night. They don't have any way of securing it in the open position. Hey everyone, as promised, we're here 2 days later to monitor this culvert again. Downstream Beaver Dam is still holding water. It's been raining all week. You see, water's backed up. It's from a beaver dam that's a couple hundred feet down there. It's a big area pond, but when it doesn't rain a lot, it doesn't hold water very well. Hopefully the beavers are able to smooth out the bottom of the pond and compress the clay a little bit more against their dam to gain more water, because it stopped raining. It might rain again tonight, but there's no rain in the forecast after today. Did they clog up anything? We were here 2 days ago to monitor this. Still got a bathtub ring. I don't think anyone came back. It's a secondary pond. And no, it doesn't look like it. Beavers don't live here. This is a secondary pond. They live down there in the pond that dries up, and what they don't understand is they dam this pipe and they don't get water down there. And even though they dam it and eventually the water comes up and starts trickling a little bit over it, it's not the same water. If this is deeper, it's pushing more water into the aquifer, more water into the surrounding ground to the forest. It's being wasted. It's not actually going to their primary pond where they actually live. All right, so we're doing our rounds today in this area. So far, everything's so good, so we're not gonna probably come back here for another month and do these checks. Just checked it today, checked it 2 days ago, unclogged it last week. It's definitely a secondary pond. Nothing's built there. That just confirms that us doing these checks, no one actually lives there, and confirming these kind of checks is good so we can have peace of mind if we have to unclog it in the winter that we're not negatively affecting the beavers by draining their pond, opening up their lodge to the predators. So they can survive the cold. It's the predators that'll kill them if you drain their pond in the winter, especially with ice on the surface. They can't build back. Their food supply gets crushed by the ice because they put sticks underwater in big piles, and that's how they eat the bark and they stock up their pantry. But it's a secondary pond. No one lives there, so us draining it won't be a problem. And we were going to do a check on the logging intersection culverts, but that area today, we were unaccessible. We unclogged that about a week ago too. We checked it a few days ago, didn't film it because it was dark. That we've known for years that's a secondary pond. No one built back yet. Sometimes happens overnight, sometimes a month later. That's just because they don't always check it. They just like extra water if they find that it's unclogged. Couldn't go there today because the logging company is replacing some culvert pipes in that area with undersized plastic culverts that aren't deep enough. And that'll be sure to cause some issues in the soon future, but we'll take a look at that sometime in the future. All right, we're driving up this steep hill. They just had to rebuild this road back in the spring. It completely washed out and looked like a river. And you see right here, this culvert pipe got completely blocked with all this big wall of rocks. It didn't cause too much damage, but you can definitely tell that drainage ditch eroded itself a little bit bigger. So we're going down this road today. We haven't been down here since the spring. We're going to be checking out a culvert pipe that used to be notorious for beaver clogs, but they recently rebuilt the road for logging. It's now super high up. New culvert. No, actually, there's not a new culvert, but they redesigned the road. Now, if beavers do come back, they'll have an even deeper pond because of how they raised it up. And I'm curious if anyone ever moved back into this area, since it was prime real estate, brand new beaver lodge built last year. They were relocated earlier this year, so the lodge is still in good condition. It would be super easy for a new family of beavers to move in. All they got to do is clog one pipe, and they'll have a pond in hours. All right, everyone, this is the brand new road they just built in the spring. This goes into a dead end, maybe a mile or two up here. Turns into an ATV trail that would be way too treacherous for us to try. But they built this road higher, and there is no sign of beavers. There's no water or anything. It's turning into a grassland. There's actually a pretty big beaver lodge right over there that someone else could move into very easily. I don't even see the beaver lodge, but I know it's brand new. They just built it last year. It's just overgrown with grass, so you can't really see it, but just doing preventative maintenance checks on these roads. We're just gonna spin it around. That's all. We came down here just to check out stuff like that. And every now and then, I'm surprised, and there's beavers that have moved back in. I'm not gonna drive all the way down here. And they raised the road up, so there's not a lot of room to turn around, so I'll probably have to do like a, maybe 7-point turn. 3-point turn was not enough. Alright, only took 5 points. There's been really tight roads we've gone down with like scary cliffs on the side where I'm not taking any chances, and I'll just do like 9 or 11 points just to not worry about falling or getting stuck. Now down here, there are a bunch of other roads that I could take. We've taken them before. Every now and then I'll take every road around here and just do checks, but we typically don't check those because they're very steep logging roads. Yes, during storms they can wash out pretty easily because water's moving very quickly over them if the culvert gets blocked. Like right here, you can tell, see how rocky it is? A lot of water was going here in the last week with the heavy rain. But the reason we don't check that is because when it's really mountainous like that, without a lot of flat areas, it's very hard for beavers to build, so we wouldn't have that type of issue. There'd be washouts though, but nothing we could really help with. You see right here, more erosion on the side of the road, and maybe 20 seconds up the road here, there's even worse damage. It's not affecting the road right here. You see that? There's a big drop right there if someone accidentally pulled into that. You can tell it was raging. It looks like a little riverbed, that ditch. It really dug itself down. All right, here we are. You can tell water was crossing. See all this? Right here, there's also a pretty big hole if someone was to accidentally pull over. Yeah, I could easily get stuck in that if I pulled over into that. Right here, this always gets washed out. Every single year recently, last year 3 times. This entire road gets washed out because there's an 8-foot culvert underneath there and the stream bed is really big. There's no erosion to the stream bed because it's not unusual. It probably historically floods like that every single year. But it probably needs a bridge, and I don't know when they're eventually going to do that, but further up here, this bridge right here is only a couple of years old. This used to be a big culvert pipe, but after getting washed out almost every year, they finally put a bridge in. And that's like probably a 20-foot wide stream underneath there. And yet it was going through a culvert, but they finally replaced it with a bridge and no issue since. And the same here with this bridge. This was just put in a couple of years back. This is a prefabricated bridge frame where they can replace the decking as needed. Heavy logging machinery, especially with chains and spiked tires, will destroy the deck really quickly if they are working in the area. I think they replaced that deck earlier in the year because this was just logged, and I know it was in rougher shape back then. Hey everyone, here we are again unclogging the same culvert again, actually 2 days later. So if you saw my video 2 days ago, we unclogged a big culvert out here. It just started raining, but it's okay. We just went down this detour again. This is a very long road, about 10 miles of very treacherous roads, and anybody with a clearance less than a foot is not going to make it down that road. Very treacherous detour. I knew it existed there, so I took it. Last time I was out here, one of the loggers told me that I had to go some other way. They didn't think I'd make it down this, but I did. It's a big detour because there's a washout in one of the nearby roads with 20 feet, just a 20-foot void in the road, just gone from the last storm. So we unclogged this culvert 2 days ago, to be exact, about 56 hours ago. Water was rushing across the road here, and there's still the same amount of water as there was last time. They didn't make their beaver dam completely watertight. They're not completely done building it yet. couple days ago, this was raging across the road a lot more. Right here, this is a beaver dam they're making because they're not satisfied with the depth of their pond. They want to make it even deeper, so they're building this dam. 2 days ago, it was at capacity, so we're only about 5-6 inches lower than we were 2 days ago. Beavers completely filled the pond back up. Look downstream here, a little bit of trickle, a lot more the other day. But this is going to be a awesome, very exciting unclogging today. I just know it. It's going to be epic. Over here, look at these beautiful trees. We're now getting into late August. Look at the fall colors. Those are not fall colors. Some trees around here, yes, are tinted a little bit, getting ready for fall, but they won't be in full peak like these trees until beginning of October. These trees are dying. That's why they're turning that color. Beavers are drowning in them by building new ponds and flooding the woods. This is another beaver pond, probably secondary beaver pond, I'm assuming. I'm assuming their primary pond is the one that we're draining because they built that back fast. They worked really hard to reflood this again. So I'm assuming they live over in this pond here. Here comes someone. That's one of the loggers. Yeah, I'm sure they live over here because they built back fast. Sometimes secondary ponds they won't even touch for a couple of days or even weeks because they don't always check in on them. But over here, this area was a beaver pond probably 5 years ago, and they got relocated or killed by the logging company. Now a new family of beavers moved in, and because it's been about 5 years, look at all the growth. They have an endless supply of building material, and that's also their favorite type of tree to eat. This beaver pond goes way, way back in there. It's bigger than you think. It would take hours for this thing to completely drain back, and we're gonna drain it back. Preventative maintenance. And today we're gonna put ribbons up. We're gonna mark this for the logging company to make sure, well, obviously they're probably gonna know beavers are here, but we're gonna make sure by marking this culvert with blue ribbons saying there's a water issue here. This needs to be trapped and fixed. So somewhere back there, there's a big lodge. I don't think we'd be able to find it. It's so vast, overgrown, you can't see anything. And believe me, beavers are gonna be very angry after we do this. Ooh, there's a lot of frogs jumping, look at that. So right here, looks like someone else maybe threw some stuff out because I didn't do that. So we're gonna unclog this from the inside. Last time, to my surprise, this pipe, even though it doesn't have corrugation, I was able to get good traction in there. I didn't get swept away or didn't even get close to being swept away. So this culvert is actually an old fuel tank, probably holding diesel or something to run all the logging machinery. And when they were done with it, I cleaned it out, cut the ends off, and it's a super strong culvert pipe that will probably outlast, look at that, probably 3/4 inch steel. That'll outlast any of the other ones. It's super strong. It's not buried as deep as code requires, but it doesn't need to be. It's so thick. Code requires half the diameter of the pipe in depth from the top of the pipe to the surface of the road, which would lead us about here. We'd need another couple of feet of soil here to be code compliant, but you don't really have to be. This thing is so strong. Looking out the end, a couple days ago when we were here, there was the smallest trickle of water coming out of this pipe, which is telling me this dam is not complete yet. It's not very watertight. Eventually they'll have all this water going across the road if they're not stopped. Take a look at all these suds. That's created when there's a lot of agitation from the water pouring out of here, also going over their dam. Agitation of natural rotting debris, natural oils, which come from rotting plant material, feces, turns into this foam. Look at all these foam. There's big piles of suds. Look at that dirty sud. Wow. So there's a lot more water coming through this than last time, but we're gonna be able to create a gigantic surge today. I got this cool shirt the other day at a thrift store. I don't really know what it's supposed to be, but in my brain it kind of looks like, from a distance, animal tracks and stuff, which is really cool. All right, everyone, in the back of the truck, see, we got our magnetic tripods, magnetic really big diving lamp, and got a lot of snacks in here so we can stay off-road for quite a while. All right, everyone, We're all geared up. Let's go on into this culvert pipe. So we'll get rid of this trickle of water on the roadway, and this thing will start flowing very nicely. This will easily go away. Puddles will take a bit to dry up, but the trickling here will be gone pretty soon. Alrighty. Let's go on in. Nice and carefully. You see, it's an old fuel tank, so you see there's the hole where they used to fill it. That is the top of the tank. Oh, look at that water go. It's already powerful. Let's get this dam out of here. All right, everyone. Camera number 2 is going. All right, that's giving you a view out the end of all the debris we dislodged. I'm gonna put you guys here on the ceiling. And I gotta put a little shim just so you can see a little bit better. Should the light be here towards me? Yeah, put it right here. The camera light is going. I need to find a little stick to use as a little shim underneath the magnetic mount, just to give you guys a better angle. Oh my gosh. Oh no. I might break the camera mount. I don't usually use these on solid steel. Oh no, I can't get the magnet off without a tool. I'm gonna break the mount. Uh-oh. All right, I'm just gonna move the camera, I guess, inside the mount. Okay. All right. How am I supposed to get this thing off? That's a 300-pound full force magnet. And against corrugated, it's easy to get off with this. I think I'm going to need a new tripod now. I can see the plastic breaking. I can get this one off because the whole thing's made of metal, but alright, here's what I gotta do. Guess I gotta completely unscrew you guys. Hope I'm not making you too dizzy. Gotta unscrew completely. Come on. One more turn. 2 more turns. Alright, you're off. There's my magnetic tripod. Can I get it off now? Ah! Hopefully I don't get pinched. Alright, we got it. Come on. I'm on. Can't get it off this time. Can't get it off. What can I do with this? It's just I can't put anything on the floor with all the water. Trying again to get this magnet off. Got it. Alright, screwing it back on. Now I gotta put a shim underneath it so that doesn't happen again. And I need to remember I need a new tripod because there's a... No, actually super glue will work. There's a hairline crack on the plastic now. Alright, alright, you guys are back up there now. Pretty good angle. Gotta get the tree branch out of the way that I just used as a shim. Alright, I think we're good. Let's start unclogging. First we gotta remove this stuff, get rid of the structure. Alright, going good. Camera number 2, you can see everything moving. Nice. Get to work. Do not need the rake at the moment. I also don't need this. building up under the camera, but eventually it'll all move once enough debris gets stuck. All right, everyone. Half an hour later, I was finally able to get in there and get everything out. So you saw I got swept away by the current, lost my footing, but it was okay. That was actually a fun water slide, and there's nothing sharp in this culvert, no corrugation, and the dam didn't push me. I lost footing once I increased it a little bit. And I tried to go in a few times, knew I wasn't gonna get in there without falling down. Put these couple logs here, slowed down the current enough. Also, this water was up here. We already lost over a foot in the pond over the last half an hour, so that helped. These sticks helped me get in there. Now let's get rid of them, increase the flow in there a little bit more. So I had to walk in there with my legs spread as much as possible against the walls where there wasn't much water. And I didn't trust myself not falling down. So I put all my camera gear down inside the big high boots. Put the cameras in my pocket, which are waterproof, and we're done. That was the first time ever actually losing my footing in a culvert. Good thing it was a smooth one. No injuries. It was actually quite fun getting swept through that. I'm glad that's on camera. But in the meantime, while I was up here, emptied out my big high boots twice because I reflooded them when I first attempted to go back in. We put up our blue ribbons, which Home Depot, no one seems to sell blue ribbon. I don't know why. Had to get a roll of that on Amazon for like 3 times the price of regular pink or orange ribbon. But yeah, wow, let's get some before and after pictures before we get out of here. First, I'm gonna put this gear away. All right, everyone, so I always get wet out here. That's why I always keep towels on the driver's seat, passenger seat, so I can get back in there really wet without making the seat smell like mold. Can dry myself off, change a pair of clothes. That's why I don't wear waders going up to my chest. These things fill with water, and they're heavy. I can barely walk in them. If it was up to my chest and that flooded, you're not getting out of there. Things like that, that's the reason every video I have has a disclaimer not to take these into your own hands. Something like that's always bound to happen. That's why we always have a second person here, just in case. And right here, I'm out of breath still from the unclogging. Right here we have completely drained back. It's now a foot below the road, nearly 2 feet down from capacity. You can see the water lines on every bush. See how it's black underwater? Not necessarily dead underwater. That's just dark green and brown algae growing. It'll crack off in the sun and that stuff will green back up. But you know beavers, they'll have this thing flooded again in a day or two. This wasn't completely as raging as much as it was 2 days ago, but they were working on it. They'll get it here if we don't come back for a couple of days. But I won't be checking this area for at least 2 weeks, so that's why we're not doing anything like the overnight camera. Don't have the time to come back out and get it in the morning. So here's what this flood across the road looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. Nicely drained back. Nice. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like at the entrance of the pipe. Completely unclogged, still got a little beaver dam foundation, but it's leveled down to the pipe. It'll drop 2 more feet. So this thing will be 4 feet below the beaver's capacity. Here's what it looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. Big improvement. So the beavers are destroying the road, especially in the winter. This will cause an icy mess. Hopefully they're relocated by winter because they're going to be a major issue here. I'm assuming this is their primary pond. Maybe there's a dam between this and what's back there. I don't think so though. They built back way too fast. They prioritized that. All right, over on the exiting end. Here's what it looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. Nice big improvement. And a mosquito just bit me between the fingers, one of the most itchy spots. That there was a big wall of debris down here. The blast broke it. Wow. Here's what the inside of the pipe looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. Big improvement. But that water is actually flowing probably 30%, 40% less than it was at its capacity about a half an hour ago. Here's what the inside looked like during its capacity. And here's what it looks like now. Pretty awesome. All right, let's get back on the road. We're a half an hour behind schedule. We have a few more preventative checks and possible uncloggings to do tonight. Walking back to the truck. We got some moose tracks. Moose have been around here in the past day. Those are fresh, haven't even really been rained on. All right, everyone, camera number 2 is going. mess up my footage back there, but I'm now regretting not making the mosquito between my fingers go away. Now it's itchy. All right, the engine even cooled down. We were here a whole hour. All right, everyone, getting back on the road. I hope today's video was interesting, everyone. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Sometimes I use wiper fluid, even if it's not dirty, it just gets rid of the squeak, because it's more slippery than water.